My name is Marc Baghadjian. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Hypercard, Rewards American Express.
And my name is Ioannou. I'm the president and co-founder of Hypercard.
What problem are you trying to solve, or is your company trying to solve?
So we consolidate a lot of employer tools, the mundane employer tools, the benefits, the stipend management, the expense management software, and we consolidate all of those into one gorgeous Amex network card that every employee can have. We build all that technology in a gorgeous card, make it very easy for employees to take advantage of all their employer tools.
Our mission is to save companies time and money by streamlining and modernizing the legacy expense management and benefit stack within companies by putting it on this ubiquitous tool, which is a credit card that everybody knows how to use, right?
And it's an interesting problem to solve for. How did you first realize that that was a problem that needed to be solved?
You know, we spoke to a lot of leaders in the space, CFOs. You don't even need to go that high. Talk to any employee at any corporation and ask them, what's it like to submit an expense report? Or what's it like to use your benefits? How do you get your benefits in the beginning of the year? It's a PDF, right? It's a 30-page PDF. People don't use their benefits. People hate submitting expense reports. They have to use a different tool for stipends. So our colleagues or friends, some of our closest friends, are going through this process, and we can empathize with them. We're like, there's tech-enabled ways you can make this so much easier. And so we had this epiphany. What if we can solve that problem while bringing the Amex membership that Amex has? Amex is really well known for their membership experiences. All the other issuers have different things that make them special, but Amex, they really nail membership. So we had an epiphany. What if we could solve all these the mundane employer tools, the lag in submitting an expense report, using your benefits, we could solve this huge problem and bring the Amex membership to employees at companies. It was like so obvious to us. Let's bring the Amex experience to employees at Lyft or at Galileo, and everyone gets a gorgeous Lyft card. Like, it was such a big vision. Imagine a Lyft card for all 5,000 employees, a pink, gorgeous card. Everything is on it, all in one. But we did it.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Well, and you're here, but how did you get here? Like, can you talk to me a bit about that?
Yeah, it was a lot. As you know, launching any type of financial service, especially in this environment, very hard. Regulation, the threshold for what regulators are looking for is a lot higher, which is actually, I think, a great correction from where it was many years ago. It means that only the programs with lots of merit will win, and you know, obviously, I think that generally more compliance is a good thing actually in this space. For us, you know, we come from Silicon Valley, from tech. The motto of Silicon Valley is move fast, break things. That does not work in fintech. We learned that really quickly.
And we learned that in part because a lot of generous people spent their time with us. They joined our circle. A lot of leaders in the fintech space, former CEO of MasterCard, all the way to the founder of SoFi, to the founder of Mercury, to Sam Altman, who ended up leading around. A lot of wonderful people joined us, and they educated us through this process of, hey, I know you're used to building this way, but in order to get to where you want to go, we're going to have to rethink a couple things. And so what Nick is talking about around compliance, really making sure for a card program, the BSA AML component is good, strong, making sure you hire the right folks to be in your corner. But it took a lot for us to get here, and a lot of generous folks who ended up investing, advising, being patient with us at the very least.
And the way that you're going about things requires some obviously knowledge of the space itself, but also requires a view that might come from outside of the space. And like, how can you talk a little bit about that and like the personal experiences that you brought to bear?
Yeah, I mean, Marc and I are both serial entrepreneurs. So I started my first company in healthcare. It was called Spira. And we later were acquired by a company here called Galileo Health. For me, that experience was really valuable because working in healthcare, it's also a highly regulated space, lots of red tape and big incumbents that you have to work with, like health systems, health insurance companies, et cetera. And that experience was really valuable for me to help understand how these banks think and how to work with these banks as you do as building a financial service. And Marc's experience,
I built a social network with raised millions of dollars and worked out of a dorm room and millions of videos watched on my ecosystem every week. But it's the intimate understanding of what customers want and balancing that with what is compliant. And so if you look at a lot of the category leaders today, say Mercury. We love Mercury. Imad's one of our investors. One of the most impressive things is I'm not sure there's a lot of fintech innovation, right? It's more consumer innovation, making this experience. Checking accounts for business has been around for a long time, but they made it incredibly easy to manage your balances, to manage your vendor stack, to see how you're spending money, to send wires. So easy, and earn interest on those deposits. It is a lot of consumer innovation. It's not necessarily slightly more interchange or a slightly cheaper wire fee. That's not what has made the new challengers successful. So
but
we took a lot.
it's kind of both too, because building a great fintech experience means building a great consumer experience. And so when you think of like Venmo, you don't think of it as such a complex system. Under the hood, it's complex. Same thing with Mercury. Under the hood is complex. There's a lot of financial, they've done a lot of innovation on the financial side. But at the end of the day, click a button and your money's sent. So it's like we try to bring that same experience.
Intimate understanding of creating a delightful consumer experience. And I feel like when you have a lot of folks who may be in the space for a long time, 20 years, they're so in the weeds of the cogs, like how is it gonna, what's the back end? Yes, while that's important, at the end of the day, if it's not as easy as me clicking a button and sending a Venmo, I'm never gonna use Venmo. And so that's what we really appreciate coming from different backgrounds. What does the customer actually want, knowing not very little about fintech when we first came into the space?
And can you talk about what you did at FinTech Meetup?
Yeah, so the wonderful thing about FinTech Meetup was there were partners of ours that we hadn't met in our stack yet, and new partners that we wanted to meet that we were not able to meet through other events and other activations. They were there for FinTech Meetup. And honestly, we had one objective. It was to make a great impression with a specific vendor, a bank. We want to make a great impression. We wanted to build a relationship and hopefully do business with them down the line. And that plan that we plotted, we were like, we got to make this work. We're 100 startup founders. We have to get in front of these people. It worked, and we ended up teaming up with that bank many months later, and we signed a deal because we met them at FinTech Meetup.
Amazing.
So it paid itself over and over and over and over again, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that was just one part. I mean, we learned so much going to all of the talks. We got to meet, like Marc said, all of these reinforced relationships with all these other partners, and honestly just hang out with cool people that we admire and learn from them. And so, I could not be happier with that experience that we had.
Look, one of the most important things is as a fintech, as a startup, when really large, the legacy incumbents, Amex is there, they have a huge presence. You want to make sure that you reinforce that relationship with them, and they know that you bring honor to the program, to their network. And so going to these events, meeting these big partners, it's really important. In our case, of course, making American Express proud is one of the top priorities for us.
So you mentioned the content and sort of the overall experience. Did you guys do the meetings program?
We didn't do the meetings program because we had really clear objectives around who we wanted to meet there. So our time was fully allocated around meeting folks that we knew were already there. The thing that was really interesting about FinTech Meetup as opposed to other conferences that we've been to is that it's a smaller conference, but there's much higher signal. Every single person that was there was it almost felt like they were like strategically picked to be there. It was like a group of people that I could almost talk to anyone, and there was some value that could be exchanged, or there's someone there that there's always, whoever it was, there was something that we could do for them, they could do for us.
It was very evident that people were there to do business, and that somebody else likened that to me as well before I even went to FinTech Meetup. They were like, you're going to find that this conference is where people go to do business. It's less Vegas and it's more FinTech. Hey, let's get the job done. Let's close this deal. And so like the meetups, you have 1,000 people talking to each other with a small interval of time. Hey, let's get this deal done. Let's get this thing across the line. And I know plenty of people who wait to get their business done at FinTech Meetup. They're waiting for this event to get things done and to reinforce those relationships or to get that thing across the finish line. It was fantastic.
Wow, amazing.
And what was your biggest takeaway from this year's event?
What was, as the first thing I told you, next to other conferences, what I noticed was there was a lot fewer but higher quality speaking events. We went and we sat and we listened to the content. The content there was less, I guess, content events, but they were higher signal, as Nick said. And so when we were sitting there, I think Onkers from Built had talked about launching this card program. Like, it was actually fascinating. And he's like, another challenger card program. I sat there and I was like, wow, this is good. Like, I actually felt like this was.
Oh yeah,
really
we learned so much. I don't know if I should name specifics, but like, you know, with Built, we learned a ton. It was fascinating because they're obviously also a challenger card company, and a lot of the things that they already went through, we're going through now.
Yeah.
And also the Navan expense talks that we went to, very interesting. Meeting the team behind these products that we look up to and that we learn from. It was great.
Like, you could just tell, like, even from the branding, FinTech Meetup it's less of a spectacle and it's more of let's get business done. Yeah. It's like you go to get things done, and we get things done.
How did FinTech Meetup help you or your business?
So in our case, like, we literally met a new issuing bank that we're issuing our cards with, which is probably the most important component of launching a consumer card, right? You need an issuing bank to team up with you. And I think that's the same reason why Kevin O'Leary was there. And Kevin O'Leary goes on stage and is like, the only reason I'm here is because I want to meet my next bank. So if you're out there in the crowd, let me know. And he was there to get business done. Like, it was so funny. He's like, I'm here to find my bank. We found our bank. And there's partners across the whole stack. Yeah. It's not just the banks, also the venture capitalist. It's also the next hires that you want to have. Maybe it's the next portfolio company in your portfolio and you're an investor. Yeah. There's someone there for everybody in FinTech, and it's very high substance. Yeah.
Actually, we were just going, and one of our core objectives was to meet this issuing bank. We ended up signing a customer out of FinTech Meetup. So it's great.
Amazing. And
why is the FinTech space exciting for you personally?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I grew up when I was like 12 years old. I begged my parents for a debit card. Wrong decision because they made me pay for everything now that I had a way to do it. But yeah, and then throughout various companies that I worked at, you know, my own companies and then the acquire, I noticed all these problems around expensing things and around, you know, using corporate cards in the traditional way that they're used. And Marc and I teamed up and we wanted to solve that problem.
Yeah, I think for in layman's, there's a lot of financial innovation, which is great. You can save 5 bips on the transaction. You can save 10 bips on the transaction. And a lot of people index on that, and a lot of people invest in that. Nico and I, we look at FinTech, there's a lot of consumer innovation that needs to be had. A lot, making the experience easier. Before Mercury, it was super hard to send a wire. Like, I used to bank with First Republic. It was very hard to send a wire, which is like nonsensical. And in the 2020s, it's hard to send a wire transfer. So we look at FinTech as opportunity when we come from a different background. There's a lot of crops to farm, to yield, to eat, lots of fruits to pick. We're ready to go.
And I love it. You guys are farmers then?
Yes, we're farmers.
In one sense of the world, yeah.
We're in the trenches, we're farmers.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining us today, and really, as always enjoy meeting you.
And we're excited to be there this year again.